Skyscraper is the latest in a long line of dumb summer movies that star The Rock. I find it highly fascinating that these films that have the dumbest and craziest premises are able to market themselves and make money off the name power of one Dwayne Johnson. And fair play to Dwayne, he has managed to reach a level of star power that no one could ever hope to reach again. But aside from this just starring The Rock, is there any merit to this film? Let's take a look. Skyscraper is directed by Rawson Thurber, who also directed We the Millers, Dodgeball and Central Intelligence. It stars the aforementioned Dwayne Johnson, as well as Neve Campbell, Pablo Schreiber, Chin Han, and Roland Møller. The story is that Hans's character Zhao Lengji has built a city skyscraper that is taller than any building in the world as its own functioning city. The top half, which is the residential area, needs to be cleared for safety before it can be opened, which is where Dwayne Johnson's Will Sawyer, an ex-SWAT team member until he lost his leg, is drafted in to give the green light, which he does, and everything is going smoothly until some rivals of Long G come calling. See, Will is presented with a tablet that controls all the safety systems in the building that can only be activated through facial recognition, which in itself is a dumb idea. They gain the tablet through shenanigans, and Møller's character Kores Borfa sets the building on fire. Will does that very heavily memed jump from the trailer, and boom, we have an action movie. Now, there is one big flaw that really holds this film back, which is ironic as it's all the film is marketed on. Your lead character is Dwayne Johnson. We know there is no way they're going to kill off the lead in the film like this, especially Mr. Johnson, so all those scenes they place in it where it looks like he is close to dying, there is literally no tension, and any nail biting that could have been had during these sequences is lost. Now, it could be argued that it's the same with any actor, but I feel that if it was a lesser known actor in this role, there would have been enough doubt left in the mind to make these sequences somewhat tense. Now, even without that, we at least love Dwayne Johnson for his charisma. Even if a film is dumb, his charisma has always been enough to make us forgive the film's flaws, but honestly, in this film, it feels like a phoned-in performance. There is very little charisma displayed by Dwayne, which is quite frankly astounding, and any one-liner feels forced. Besides some early scenes with his family, it does feel like Dwayne does not wish to be there. Now, obviously this film isn't all just Dwayne, and there are some good performances in here, so getting into some positives, starting with Neve Campbell's performance as Sarah Sawyer. While this is by no means a mind-blowing performance, the effort she puts into this kind of film goes above what you would expect, and her role as the mother reassuring and protecting her kids was very believable, simply for the facial work. There are scenes where she is trying to be calm and reassuring to her kids whilst running from this fire, but her eyes give away a sense of fear and rapid thinking that this character would be doing. Also, Chin Han is easily the most charismatic as this billionaire. In fact, he is definitely my MVP of this film. Just the way he handles the situation and his intelligence as to what is happening is very calm and collected, and was actually a very likable rich guy, which is a rarity in any film genre. In terms of other positives, the characters are written smarter than most characters in these disposable action films, and the action sequences, whilst lacking tension, are at least shot and edited really well. Also, the way the Pearl itself is implemented towards the end of the film is both set up well and is a really entertaining action scene, despite some heavy flaws. Also, the design of the building is very well thought out, and is definitely made to feel different to any skyscraper in existence, so bit of respect to the art directors and the set designers, as these smaller roles never get enough of a shout out when it comes to these reviews. Now let's get back into some of the flaws. Whilst I did say some characters are written better, that does not mean all the characters are perfect. Kores Borfa is fine, but lacks anything memorable that makes him stand out, and while the two police officers are trying to be useful, they are pretty much there for exposition and plot advancement. But my biggest character issue is the moles. Now, while I will try to avoid spoilers here, I can't guarantee my descriptions won't give anything away. Anyway, there are a couple of characters who are written so poorly and casted so poorly that any surprise factor is gone. One of these, the film makes no attempt to hide his ulterior motives, and the character ends up being the first inciting incident of this film. The second is one of the most obvious weasels ever, that whilst I didn't guess the heel turn, once it did happen, my first thoughts were, of course. It just feels like, with a plot like this, more could have been done to make these points a bit more surprising. Now, while I will give credit to Thurber for trying to direct a straight up action film, it does feel like he is out of his comfort zone. To go from a comedy to a straight action film is quite the leap, and whilst Central Intelligence was a great action comedy, there was definitely a lot more comedy aspects than there were action aspects, and that's where I feel like his strengths lie. With an all-out action movie, it is a whole different ballgame, and it does feel like he was trying to make a more high-tech Die Hard, because some of the one-liner jokes are very forced and out of left field, and there is literally a reference to the old adage of using duct tape to fix stuff and turning the Wi-Fi off and on again. Even the climax feels like a knockoff of Die Hard. Now, while it is a little low to compare the two films that have been made 30 years apart, but the parallels are so unavoidable I can't help but make those comparisons. Overall, Skyscraper has some good characters, some well-edited action sequences, and some well-designed sets. But when your lead is played by both the highest paid actor in the world and an absolute tank, asking us to buy into the everyday man shtick is quite a stretch, even with the handicap placed on his character. Without that tension, this film was just boring, which is a really bad sign when it comes to action movies. Now, while I would never watch this again, there are definitely good things in this, so I can't really score it too low, and in the end I decided that Skyscraper just has too much milk. So Skyscraper, have people seen it? What did you think? Let me know down in the comments below. Hit that round subscribe button for more reviews coming all the time. This is that Spikehead podcast, signing off.